Yep, it's live. All right, I'm just going to delete that last one. I was live. I'll delete that one. Just let us know if you can see this on the Facebook. I can't see anyone on the Facebook live at the moment.
Yeah, I can see you. You're good from
Yeah, no,
my end.
I can't see anyone on there yet. That's all. We're just going to work out this
Yeah.
new software. It's great software. It's just a little bit. Oh, yep, there's people on there. Okay, awesome. So it's working.
Beautiful.
Good job.
Good
All
stuff.
right. Well, so today we did a live stream the other day, 2 days ago, and we had this same issue. We thought that people were seeing it on the Facebook, but they weren't because using this software, for some reason, it switches over to private. And anyway, it's a bit of a conundrum. We sorted it out now, but we wanted to have a chat about the Zionist Jewish issue, and the reason that we wanted to bring this up was because I did a post the other day because we're running a rally, and it's more of an event, and it's going to be on the 30th of November. And I shared a post of Tommy Robertson that he was going to do a recorded message for us at our event, and he was going to help us promote it. Now, I would think that's a really good thing. And it's something that people would be appreciative of. But there was so many negative comments calling him a Zionist, a sellout. Just horrible things about this guy. And look, whether you agree with his stance on Israel or not, I think that's really irrelevant when you think of all the good stuff he's done. So he's someone who has exposed the grooming gangs in the UK. He's done a huge amount for the UK and for Western values. He's exposed the evils of you know extreme Islamic sort of political movement in the Western countries. He's done amazing work. He's also exposed the lawfare. He's made documentaries. He's spoken to victims of rape and abuse. And then some of these victims were victims of judicial abuse as well. He's exposed all this and he's gone to jail for it. So I think this guy's a saint. And I think he's not perfect. No one's perfect, but I can't fault him really. Yet to have all of these people get on the comments say that guy's a shill, he's pure evil, he's Zionist scum. I just thought, no, we've got to do something about this. This is ridiculous. This is like a mind virus. So I don't want to get into all the comments. We did that the other day. You can watch that live because it is public now, but it's not live now, obviously. But I wanted to share, just some of the definitions of Zionism, right? Because I thought we should start there, right? So if someone says they're a Zionist, and
Do you want me to
people say,
share the screen? Do you want to share the screen?
well, let's share the screen. Yeah.
Oh, one sec.
So if someone says they're a Zionist, that's all right. I can just talk about it, but somehow people believe it's this great evil. You go window.
No.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Somehow people think it's like the greatest of evils, and if you just look at the definition of Zionist, I don't see how you can make that connection. So I've got the Britannica here, which says Zionism is a Jewish nationalist movement with the goal of creation and support of the Jewish national state in Palestine, the ancient homeland of the Jews. And then it goes on. It's a long definition, but and it goes through the history of it. But essentially, that's what most people believe if they say they're a Zionist. So there's all these people saying that they are, that they simply believe in the state of Israel. That's it, as opposed to it being the state of Palestine, right? As a Christian, I don't believe that Palestine is the name of that region. I believe it does go back to, it really is Israel or Judea. Um, does that mean that I believe in the modern state of Israel? That doesn't mean that. What it means is I don't believe it's Palestine, right? So that another definition. So we've got the Cambridge definition, which says some Zionist, someone who belongs to or supports the political movement um, that had its original aim and creation of a country as its original aim, the creation of a country for Jewish people, and that now supports the state of Israel. So that's I don't whether you agree with that or not. By simply believing in that definition, how does that make you the worst person on the earth and the greatest evil? How does that justify people, this definition? How could that be a justification for people to attack others? Like Tommy. Tommy's getting attacked because he believes in the state of Israel. To me, it makes no sense. And I think a lot of this is just people parroting this Jewish hatred because there is a Jewish hatred. Then people say, I don't hate Jews, I just hate Zionists. Well, that's most of the Jews, actually. There's a lot of Jews that aren't Zionists, and there's a lot of Orthodox Jews that aren't because they obviously believe that they need their Messiah to come back before they can establish Zion. So that's the ultra-religious ones. But that's only some of the ultra-religious ones. Some of them are that believe in the state of Israel or a Jewish homeland. Then I've got another definition here, which is just dictionary.com. A Zionist, a follower of Zionism, a movement that resulted in the establishment and development of the state of Israel. The term can be a neutral, positive, or offensive term for a Jewish Israeli national. So if you're a Jew and you believe that that land should be for the Jews, even actually the Islamic texts talk about that land that it was given to B'nai Israel, right? So and that's why you get a lot of these Saudi, like some of the Saudi princes and other, prominent people in the Islamic world also would be considered to be Zionists as well, right? So it's not this. I don't see how it's this great evil that people make out, unless there's some other definition. But I've looked at 3 definitions here. I've also got one off AI. I asked Grok what it was to be as considered a Zionist. The question was, what does the word Zionist mean to the average Jewish person? We can stop sharing now. And what it said was to the average Jewish person, Zionist likely means supporting the existence of Israel as a Jewish homeland, often tied to cultural, historical, or emotional connections. However, the term's meaning can range from a deeply personal affirmation of identity to a more complex or critical stance depending on the individual's perspective and experiences. So that, to me, if you believe that, how does that? Now, this is a question for anyone here, but I want to ask you, Ben. If someone believes in the 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 establishment of Israel as a Jewish homeland, how does that make you the worst of people and part of the world's problems and the greatest of the world's problems and pure evil? I'm just trying to think of what other things that people say. Zionist scum. How does that make you those things just because you believe in Jewish homeland? What are your
Well,
thoughts, Ben?
for me personally, coming from a country that was communist, being able to be afforded the freedom to be able to flee somewhere that's free, that doesn't have an imposing government, that doesn't have any sort of value for human life. The communist government didn't have that. So can you imagine being a Jew in the world and not having your own home country, homeland to be able to call your own? It's madness. It makes no sense to me. So if anybody can relate, I can relate to it.
Yeah, but what I think, whether or not you believe in Israel, the state of Israel, the modern state of Israel, a lot of people don't believe that the modern state of Israel is the same Israel of the Bible, which I get that. I think there's definitely an argument for that. A lot of people think it hasn't been established by God. A lot of people think the Messiah, Jesus, is going to come back as Christians before it's established. But the point is really this: the reasonable point is if you don't agree with the definitions we just shared, which is simply that a belief in the establishment of a Jewish state, and if you don't believe in that, why would you then connect the dots that makes you the most evil person on the earth and the cause of all the world's problems? How do you connect those dots? I don't understand how you can connect those dots because I can't connect them. People would say,
Yeah.
yeah, but the real Zionists, they have they have a different definition, a different meaning, maybe, but that's not what the 99% of people who claim to be Zionists believe. The majority of people who claim to be Zionists literally believe just that that the Jews have a right to that land. That's it. They would say
That's
there's
it.
a history there that goes for thousands of years, and the Jews, and not just the Jews, obviously there's all the other tribes of Israel, and I believe very, very firmly that the actual Israelites, the biblical Israelites, most of them ended up in Western Europe. There's also the Afghani people, the Pakhtun Afghanis. They know that they're from the tribe of Benjamin, and it's interesting because a lot of them have red hair too, and they're the original Afghanis. So there's all this there's Israelite blood all through the world, but I don't think that really matters. It's not even the point. I think that the point is, why can't there be a place for those people? Why does it, and why when this is the argument that Tommy often uses to justify why he is a Zionist. He would say there's 22 Arab states, but there's nothing. Why can't there be anything for the Jews? One little tiny
Yeah.
speck, it's tiny like that.
Yeah.
That would, and it's reasonable to say. Now you can hate him because he says that, but I don't know why you hate him because he says that. That's the point that I want to raise. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of other issues like there's all this Jew hatred that exists. Like anyone that says that it's justified, I think you're completely misguided because I can't see any justification for the Jew hatred that exists. I don't call it anti-Semitism really because I know that people go, oh, they're not even Semitic. The majority of them, they're Ashkenazi, whatever, and it just creates more arguments. But the point is, and there's other Semitic people. You've got all these other people that are Semitic, right? Arabs are Semitic. Iranians would be Semitic as well, and so I don't think that's even any. And I would think that if you look at the Gaelic language is actually a Semitic language, even though mainstream academia will say it's Indo-European. But if you do a deep dive, you see it's clearly a Semitic language. So I don't think that's really the right term. I just call it Jew hate. People will say the Jews, the Jews, the Jews, and I don't understand it logically. I don't think there's any logic for it. Then they'd say the genocide in Gaza. Okay, so there's war going on, people are dying. So that's one thing, but that's not so much. I don't think Zionism. Zionism, the definition that most people hold to, is that they just believe in a homeland for the Jews. That's it. That's all it
That's
is.
all it is. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know how you can conflate that with the hatred that exists for them. Can you what are some of the statements that are made about the Jews? Like some of the common statements that people go on about. Like with this Jew hate, there's certain things that people say. I'm just trying to think what some of them are. One of them would be that the Jews control all the banking. Right, that's
Yep.
one of them. Yeah, one before. So I've actually, and I shared this yesterday. I want to share this. We'll share screen. I actually copied and pasted this. Um, let's just copy. I'm going to share.
Send it over.
There we go. I can share it here. Um, which one is it? Document. I think it's this one.
Did you send the screen over, Nick?
Here it is. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
So
beautiful.
I've got here the top 10 banks in the world, right? The top 10 banks, the biggest banks. Can you guys see that? Is it there on the screen now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
All good.
Okay. So the first one is the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, state-owned, it's owned by the Chinese government. China Construction Bank, state-owned. Agricultural Bank of China, state-owned. Bank of China, state-owned. JP Morgan Chase, well, that's publicly traded. Obviously, you've got Vanguard and BlackRock, and obviously you've got some Jewish people in there. Okay, that's not the top four though. And JP Morgan, just so you know, he wasn't the original JP Morgan. He wasn't a Jew. He was an Episcopalian, I think. Mitsubishi Financial Group, HSBC Holdings. You probably got some Jewish people there high up. BNP. So you've got all Bank of America. How is this? How is it the Jews that control all the money? Just because they might be overrepresented there doesn't mean that they control all the money. So I wanted to look that up. I know people would say, yeah, but the Jews control all of it. But they never provide any evidence for that. All they do is they state. I'll just stop share screening. Yep. So people just say this stuff, and I think a lot of people just parrot it as though it's factual because so many people are saying it. It must be true, and it becomes a mantra that people follow. And it's not using your brain. It's not using your mind. It's actually just you're just going along with the loud mob. The mob screaming a thing. Get your jab. Get your jab. Get your you know. And then people went along with it because of the mob, right? But this is no different. People are, and they think because I think they watch documentaries or things, and it must be because I've been sent so many documentaries from people. I've watched some of them. I can't watch them all. When you get 100 people sharing documentaries to prove how bad the Jews are, I can't watch them all at the time, and I watch some of them, and a lot of it is just people conflating things. There might be
Yeah,
something there, but it's not. It's not what they say it is. It's like they'll say there's this one little bit of circumstantial evidence, and then from that they'll make a whole big narrative. And because lots of people are saying and sharing that same narrative as though it's true, but there's never any evidence, and I'm just sick of it. I'm just sick of it. And you know what? If you don't like me because I'm sharing this, and if people find that offensive that I'm actually pointing out that there's flaws in these arguments, well, then you can call me all the names you like. It doesn't offend me. I don't care. You can call me a Zionist, this or whatever. I've got my own opinion on it. Like I don't consider what they call the modern state of Israel to be like the same as the Bible's version of it. I think there's a lot of corrupt hands in there, but I think that's the same with all nations. Just as you know, people will say. I think we looked at it last time. We looked at some of the comments where there was one lady going on about the Jews that spit on people. They spit on people and Christians in Israel. They hate Christians and they spit on them. And that's like saying, yeah, there's Nazis in Melbourne, so all of Melbourne are Nazis. It's one really small group of degenerate people who have done that, and there's videos of it. That does not reflect the majority. Yet people make out that it does. And this is where the lies come in because it's deceptive and it's false to say that the Jews think this way. When you say the Jews, you're talking about all of them. But it's really only one group of degenerate Jews who think that way. And I just think that's completely dishonest to do that. What are your thoughts, mate?
yeah. I think there's a point in time like Nick and I both during the pandemic, we saw right through the lies and deception, and there was really no like from the get go. If you're a rationally thinking person, you could see it for yourself. You could work it out for yourself, and then what we would do, we would get together, talk about it, point out certain things and stuff. I think the main problem, the main problem with the world is instead of educating themselves, they'll entertain themselves. And I think a lot of information that's out there, especially when it comes to the anti-Zionist stuff or the Jew hate stuff, it's just entertainment. It's just people parroting a narrative. And that's where you can't find yourself in a situation where you're intellectually lazy. There's many times somebody sent me something and I'll be like at the start, I'll be like, oh, let me send this out. I remember when Donald Trump came down the escalator and somebody sent me that Simpsons one, and I'm like, I sent it straight away. I go, look, Trump's been put into office. And then about 10 minutes later, I'm sitting there thinking, man, I should double check this. I should cross reference this. And I went out, I did my due diligence, and I cross referenced it, and I found out that that episode was actually aired 2 or 3 months after Donald Trump came down the escalator.
There you
But
go.
yeah, but that information was kind of not like easy to get to. But I eventually dug it up. It was before AI and Grok and stuff. So I sent an apology to the person that to the people that I sent the link to. So I think most of this stuff, especially when you're listening to the likes of Dan Brazilian or whatever his name is, Kanye West, a lot of these guys, maybe they were good at one stage. Some of them are getting cooked hard. I just don't understand them. They're going
Well,
off the
that's
deep end.
the word, the cooker, because I really hated that word. But then I've had so many people looking at my comments going like, Nick, what's with all these nutters? They're cooked. And I go, you know what? I think you're right. These people are just so focused on the hate, and it doesn't
Yeah,
matter what you say to them to be reasonable. They just won't be. And then they start
yeah,
calling me names. Like I've had people on there say that I've been getting the shekels. I've become a Zionist, and I'm getting paid the shekels now. Like, gee, when did I get paid? I didn't know I got paid. I haven't been paid anything. But okay, like once you say stupid stuff like that, I just realize you're an absolute moron. That you would
yeah,
say stuff like that, which is defamatory, and it shows you have no quality of character to say that. It's like one of the guys shared a little like a meme about. Well, I don't know if you call it a meme, but it was a poster, and it had this one guy and how he had this Muslim guy had exposed all of these Muslim grooming gang members, and then next to it was this is a fraudster named who goes by the name of Tommy Robertson. He hasn't exposed any of them. Well, actually, like it's just completely false. The guy
yeah,
that Tommy Robertson has done a whole documentary called "The Rape of Britain," where he actually interviews victims, exposes the people and shows photos of the people who abuse these victims, and he's actually gone to prison for exposing a lot of this stuff. So this idea that he hasn't, like, the fact that that's going around, if there's so much false information out there, right? It's absolutely garbage, and I can see it now, and I understand how bad it is for any kind of movement to get organic movement to get traction when there's so much of this false. It's not so much that there's false information; it's that there's so many people parroting the same false information as though it's fact, and then they're all emotional about it, and then they attack you if you don't agree with them. And I use
yeah.
this example: if let's say you don't like Tommy Robinson because he says he's a Zionist, which really all that means is that he agrees that they should have a state, and he thinks that's okay. That's what that means, right? That I don't know how you can conflate that to being the most evil of people because of that. But anyway, um, you would probably agree with 95% of the other things he's done that are good. And if you agree with the other 95%, why would you find fault with that 5% and make that the be all and end all? Why would you not unite with somebody because of 5%, which is just that he says he's honest, when the other 95% has been good? I don't understand that. I think there's a problem with you, and you're
Yeah.
your own worst enemy if you
What's
can't you be united with anyone unless they agree with everything you agree with. I think that's complete arrogance.
what what's that saying, Nick? You're missing the good for the perfect. And as a Christian, we know that there's only one who is perfect, and that's Jesus Christ. But obviously, we hold different thoughts and opinions, and we have to be. I mean, it doesn't matter who I meet, whether they're Christian or not. My due diligence is to learn from this person. It doesn't matter how crazy they sound. Like some people, they might be completely nuts, right? And that's when I do a 180 and just walk the other way. But I have to be able to entertain. Who was the one that said it? I'll pull up the saying, but there's a saying: the sign of a wise man or a genius is being able to hold two consecutive thoughts in their mind at the same time, two opposing thoughts in their mind at the same time. That's a sign of a genius. So you should be able to entertain both sides of the story and then make a conscious, wise decision out of it. Hating on anything or hating on any people group is just groupthink. There's just no other.
That's exactly
That,
what it is, which is what I find. I actually think of that when I think of Islam, because I know whenever I've talked to Muslims in the past, and look, I love Muslim people. I don't like their ideology though. But when I talk about when I ask them what do you believe, right? It's funny because they'll nearly always say we believe. They'll say the plural. They won't say I believe. They'll say we believe this, we believe that. And I
yeah,
go, why? And I will say to them,
yeah,
why do you say we believe? Why don't you? I want to know what you believe individually. But they go, well, we believe this. I'm a Muslim. We believe that. So they're conforming to a group think mentality rather than an individual thought pattern. And I think that's where we are. That's where I go. Oh, I actually have an individual perspective of what I think,
yeah,
and I believe that's really important that we have that individual perspective rather than conforming to the mob way of thinking, which is I think what Islam does. It's peer pressure and all the rest of it. But it's the same thing here where people go, yeah, but the Jews they're controlling everything. They're controlling everything there. And look, there is something there where they're lobbying parliaments, especially in the US, and they're funding. So there is something there. There's definitely something with the whole October 7th, right, thing where there was, I would say there's probably some bad hands on the Israeli side as well as to how that all happened. But to say when you don't know all of those variables, to then say Israel's behind it all, I just think is mad. It's completely and it's wrong to do that. I think it's wrong. I think if you know something, share it, expose it. If you don't know it but you think it, maybe share that, but don't say it is such because I think so, because that just shows pure arrogance. Anyway, sorry, I cut
I,
you off
rem-
there, mate.
I remember when you first when you pointed that out, that when you speak to a Muslim, they'll go, "Well, Muslims believe, or we believe." I can't stop noticing that now. Every single
Yeah.
time I
First thing I
see
read.
him say, yeah, it's the first thing you notice, and you speak this. The reason why there's so many denominations of Christians is because they can think for themselves. They want to
Yeah.
they want to choose for themselves. They can do that. They're free to do that. In with Shia and Sunni, they're killing each other for it. Yeah, I know we did have that problem before with the Protestant movement, but that was obviously a political thing when it came to the
And,
Pope and
it
stuff.
wasn't
But
biblically prescribed
it had
either.
nothing to
It's
do with
actually
the Bible. Yeah,
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 yeah.
nothing to
It's
do with the
interesting
Bible.
because you say that because the precedent for thinking outside of the box and thinking for yourself is all through the Bible, even to the point where John comes up to Jesus, he says, "Master, we saw others doing miracles in your name, but they weren't following us, so we forbade them." And then Jesus says, "Forbid them not." He says those who are not against us are on our part, and there's a clear precedent there that you don't have to all follow the exact same way in everything and in what you do, as long as you make Jesus the way, right? So
Yeah,
we can be in it really doesn't matter if we might have differences of opinion on certain things. At the end of the day, we're not saved by getting everything perfectly right because we're not going to do it. It's just Jesus. That's the whole thing. That's the beauty of Christianity. But I find it really
yeah,
interesting because if I talk to some Christians do it, where I'll say, "What do you believe?" and they'll say, "Oh, well, and they will say, "We believe too." So the group thing isn't just Islamic; it's in the Christian world too, but it's not in all of the Christian world. It's actually it's only really part of it. Whereas
yeah,
with pretty much every Muslim I've had those discussions with about religion, they've always said we believe, and I noticed it straight from the get go, and I went, oh wow, that's really interesting, and my ears pricked up, and I thought, why did you say we? Why did
yeah.
you say we? um,
I've
another
got. I
yeah,
found. I'll just say quickly. I found that saying. It was by a guy called F. Scott Fitzgerald, and the quote is, "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function." Now, Here's the thing: being able to hold those ideas and choosing which one is right, that's first-rate intelligence. There's the opposing side, which is cognitive dissonance, which is holding two opposing thoughts in your mind at the same time and believing them both. Like, for example, I don't know, believing in global warming, yet driving a 8 litre Mustang. You know what I mean?
Mental gymnastics. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
exactly what you're
mental
saying.
gymnastics. Yeah, yeah.
So,
So
so go on. Yeah.
it's cognitive laziness if you just choose to jump on the bandwagon of that group think bandwagon and just say, well, everything is the Jews or everything is this or everything is that. You know.
And to not actually do proper research before you make the decision too. It shows a lack of diligence as well.
Yeah.
I've always been one that I can hold. I know I can because I do it all the time. Like I go, well, maybe it's this, and I'm open to
Yeah.
that. But if I don't know. I don't know that. So because I can't, so I can entertain the idea, but I can entertain the idea that it might be, but I don't know. Until I know for sure, I'm not going to jump. And this is where I think morals come in. I'm not going to jump on a group of people who some would say are ethnic, some would say are nationalistic, and some would say are religious. Regardless, I think many just use them all interchangeably. I'm not going to jump on them all and say you're the great evil, and I'm not going to share memes that are quite offensive to that group of people. When every Jewish person, for the most part, actually not everyone, but the majority of the Jewish people that I've met and had relationships with, including some that are family members through marriage, I don't have any. I think they're really good people. I can't see any of those things that people say. I can't see it. It's the same thing people talk about Harvey, and they say Harvey's done this, that, and the other. He's killed babies and all just stupid stuff. And I go, where do you
Yeah.
get this from? And then what they
Yeah.
do is they go to an interview. It wasn't an interview; it was a discussion or a debate he was having with a guy named Ali Dawa. Now, Ali Dawa is the same guy that
It's
believes
called,
that when Muhammad he believes it's okay to marry 6-year-olds and then
yeah.
consummate marriages at 9. He believes that it's okay to go and against your wife's will go and marry another woman without her knowing. He believes
Yeah.
that it's okay to use violence against the infidels. He believes he's basically a jihadi that hasn't come out fully as a jihadi, but he kind of has come. I remember I saw a video of someone asking him about Sophia. So for those that don't know, Sophia was a woman who I think she was a Jewish woman too, who
Yeah.
had her husband killed and decapitated, her father, her whole family, and then I think the next day, I wasn't the next day after. I think the father, it might have been the husband, was killed. Muhammad, out of his mercy, decided to take her and as one of his wives, one of his many wives, and
It was the same day, Nick. Same day. Same night.
yeah, well, I've read some that say that and some that don't. But anyway, yeah, it may be the same day. But imagine you had your whole family killed, your husband was killed by this man under his rule, and then this man says, "Oh, you're attractive, and I want to marry you," and somehow that shows mercy, right? It's completely
Yeah.
anyway. This guy Ali Dawa was questioned on that, and he seems to think that was fine, that was great. There's nothing wrong with that, and that particular woman loved Muhammad, even though that her whole family and husband and father and all the rest of it were killed by Muhammad. You know what I mean?
Don't
Like
know,
it's complete mental backflips and mental
Nick.
gymnastics. And yeah,
I don't want to get into too deep. I don't want to get
yeah.
into too much of a deep
Why not?
conversation,
Why
but
not?
these guys they need to explain why one of Muhammad's companions sat by the entrance of the tent guarding it because he was scared that she was going to kill him that same night. That's in their own mind. They were thinking to themselves, I can't believe what he's done. He's wiped out the whole family. Now he's raping her, raping her. Why? And he's taken it into the tent. I'm going to go by the tent and just wait by the tent in case she tries something. So there was no. Obviously, they knew it wasn't about love or anything like that.
But they say it's anyway. Getting back to the point. So the point was That's Ali Dawa. He believes all of this stuff, right? So we went on a tangent. So Ali Dawa and Avi are having a discussion, and Ali says, basically puts it on in that to Avi that you've gone into the IDF and you've killed children. And all Avi does is he goes, yeah, I killed, I killed children. He said something to that effect, but it was obviously anyone with a reasonable mind can see
Yeah.
he's not saying, yes, I kill Palestinian children and I love it.
Yeah.
All he's saying is he's just going, yeah, all right, and he's agreeing with the claim that Ali Dar was making sarcastically. That's all it is, and that's the only evidence people throw at me and share with me to prove that Avi is just evil Palestinian child killer. And obviously, you get people like Max Egan and stuff who say the same things. They regurgitate the same stuff. And you know why? Because when you regurgitate this stuff, heaps of people follow you. The mob will follow you because, look, Max Egan's saying the same thing. I'll tell you what about Max Egan. Max Egan's the same guy that said that I was locked up in a mental institution. You gotta look it up. He said that about me. Wasn't true. Never happened. Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
people take words of these people as being, doctrine. That's in concrete. That's the truth. He doesn't lie, that guy. Well, I'll tell you, he said some crap about me. What else is he saying about other? He hasn't said much about me. Of the few things he said about me, a big chunk of it was garbage. So imagine what he's saying about other people. So another one that people say about the Jews to make them out to be the worst people on the earth is that they mention the Talmud. The Talmud, right? So I spent half a day on all these verses. I want to share some stuff. I've got AI on it as well, but I have checked what AI has said as well, and I can show you that as well. So I'm going to
Yeah.
share screen. Back to the window. Let's go to there it is. It's already ready to go. So these, and I get these all the time. People, well, when like they talk to me like I'm an idiot, and they'll say, "Oh, have you read the Talmud?" Just because I don't agree with their assertion of how evil the Jews are and how
I
they're
bet you they
controlling.
haven't read the Talmud. I bet you they haven't, and I can guarantee to you that they didn't read the Talmud.
It's like that many volumes. It's huge. Of course, they haven't
Yeah.
read it, right?
Yeah.
They get there, and you know what percentage of the Jewish population in the world actually read the Talmud? It's about 10 to 14% that
Yeah.
actually read it and follow it religiously. It's about 10%. So it's about 1.5 to 1.6 million people. If you go to the Quran, it's about 80% of the Islamic world, about 1.5 billion. So it's about 1,000 times more people follow the Quran religiously than than those who follow the Talmud religiously. And people say the Talmud's far worse. Now I've looked at I think I looked at eight of them, and I looked them up myself, not just in AI. Like I looked up on, I actually looked them up online on Chabad, and I read them because they're full chapters. I read through the full chapters of where it's their rabbis discussing things. Now, I'll tell you honestly, I don't like the Talmud. I don't like what it teaches and the way it talks, and I don't agree with their position on a lot of these things because it's their rabbis deciding what the actual law actually prescribes, the Torah, and I don't agree with a lot of it. It's not my book, but it doesn't say the things that people say it says. Right? This one's so let's have a look at AI anyway. So I'm just going to scroll this one up. I don't know why I can't get that to go. Anyway, so if we look at these, like I've got Sofrim 15, even the best of Goyim should be killed, right? So this is the stuff that goes around. Now, I I asked a question: does Sophren 15 say this? Even the best of Goyim should be killed. No, right? And it tells us it doesn't. But then, and I've looked it up too. I've actually looked it up. I've actually gone to Chabad and I've read through it. I spent half a day yesterday doing it because I also did a Bible study about this topic and I went into all of it. And they're very loose statements. If we go to the actual conclusion here, I'm not going to read all of it with you. Let's have a look. Where's the? Oh, actually, let's just read. It says no. Does not contain those X phrasing. The quote appears to be popularized and mistranslated an English rendition of a specific statement attributed to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And then anyway, it goes on. It goes on. I'm not going to read the whole lot, but I went through them all. Like I went through this one here. Bamot 98A. And I'm not. I mean, you should if you're going to quote the stuff, you should have a good look. But I have had a look at these, but it's easier to get a breakdown in AI as well. But I've looked it up I've actually looked it up on the Chabad as well. So here it is. Here does Yibamot 98A say this? All children of Goyim are as animals? No, miraculously spelt Yivamot 98A. Does not say all children of Goyim are animals. This misquote is distortion, often found in anti-Semitic lists. Anyway, we'll go to I'm just going to go to the actual. So it says there is no mesmerat legitimate status among Gentiles, right? And it's something very different. It's very specific. And if we have a look at the conclusion, it says. It discusses a legal principle about the applicability of manzarat to Gentiles, which is a particular type of legal status, right? Using an analogy to animals for clarification, meaning they don't have any legal status under the Jewish law as well. Right, that's all it is. So they just completely made something up. It's made up. Does Beba Mazia 115 say goys are not human? They are beasts, and no, and over and over again, it doesn't. I don't want to go through it all because but I went through all of these ones here, and I don't think some of them don't even exist. Just so you know, some of these don't actually exist. And people are quoting them as though they exist. I'm just going to yeah.
Yeah.
So I went through all of those there that were on that list, and that was one of them. And I get shared this all the time. People say, "Oh, the Talmud says this, the Talmud says that." So when you actually look at it, it doesn't. It's like saying all Gentiles are animals according to the. Actually, what it's saying is that it's a rabbi saying, and I'm not saying I agree with the rabbis and what they say, but what they're actually saying is the the Gentiles have no status with this particular issue to do with property rights under the Jewish law as do animals when it comes to this particular thing with an estate owned by someone of an and it's some weird thing. But then they would just say that. They'll say, all Gentiles are animals. That's not what it says at all. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's just wrong to say that it does. And if you're watching this and you've seen this stuff and people share it, it's completely wrong to promote it as though it does say that when it doesn't. Does it mean that I agree with the Talmud? No, the Talmud's not my book. I don't agree with it. It's not my religious text. I think it's a false religious text in many cases. But I haven't read that much of it. I've spent a half a day yesterday reading it, and I didn't like what I read.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say the things that people say it says. And I think it's wrong to get on the bandwagon and go along with the lie. And that's what's happening.
Do you want me to go ahead and stillman the argument about the Zionism, Nick, or did you want to cover something else?
No, we can get into something else. Yeah, there's a lot more to get into. Yeah, but that's I just wanted to. So let's just sum that up. Most Zionists believe that in a Jewish state, that's all they believe. That's all it is to be a Zionist for most people. I don't think that quantifies the right for people to call those people the greatest evil of the world and to call them names and to make Zionists this evil, and that's what it means. Uh, whether or not there is this great genocide happening or happened in Palestine, right? That doesn't. That's not Zionism. Zionism is literally those definitions that most people believe. So when someone says they're a Zionist, oh, you're a Zionist, you are the worst. You are a sellout. That's not what it means. It
Yeah.
makes no sense. It's completely ridiculous to say that. The Jews controlling all of the banks and all of the money isn't correct. They control a bit, but when you look at it in perspective with all of the other hands involved, it's not correct. The Talmud is the greatest evil. Well, when you look at it, a lot of the things that the Talmud people claim the Talmud says that doesn't say, and a lot of the quotes they say and the references don't even exist. They don't even exist. I promise you, they don't. And the ones that do exist are not. They don't actually say anything like what people say they say. And I believe they did until I looked into it and spent half a day on it, and I realised it didn't. And I talked to a friend of mine today who's actually a really good mate, Christian mate of mine from church. He goes, oh yeah, Nicky. He goes, Nick, they actually have you? Yeah, I've looked it up, and he's a big reader. This guy, and he goes, yeah, it doesn't exist. A lot of it doesn't even exist. People are parroting the same crap, and it's not true. It's not accurate, and it's wrong, and it hurts people. And I don't think it's right that they should do that. And the other part is, even if the Talmud did say those things, only about 10 to 14% of the Jewish population follow the Talmud religiously and read it religiously, which is only about 1.5 to 1.6 million people on the earth. I don't think that's the greatest thing when there is an Islamic issue that we see all around the world, and that we have, at least 1.5 billion people following those religious texts fundamentally and religiously, which is 1.5 billion people. It's a massive amount of people. It's about 80% of the Islamic population. So yeah, the Jew hate to me is completely wrong. People go, oh no, it's a Zionist. Well, Zionists, if you're a Zionist, you just, for the most part, just believe in the Jewish state, which is most Jews anyway. Not all of them, but most of them, but a big chunk of them. A lot will say they don't agree with them, and for different reasons they don't agree with Zionism. I think some of them don't, but they probably don't have that big of an issue with the state of Israel, or they believe the state of Israel also means all sorts of other things. And I would agree that probably those other things are wrong too, and I don't think that they're right, potentially. But I think the hatred towards Jewish people, just because they say, or non-Jewish people, just because they agree with the Jewish state, is not justified, in my opinion. And that's just my opinion. And I think that's your opinion as well. So anyway,
I think I think the only people group that are directed to hate Jews are the Muslims, because the Quran doesn't have very nice things to say about Jews. And
Nazis, but they're not really a
yeah,
people group. They're an ideological group.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Oh well, they're following their religion. So are we free? Are we free? Are we gonna? Are we going to be free in the way that we think, or do we look ultimately, Nick? In that we're all sheep, huh? All of us were sheep. We're all following different voices. We need to choose which voice we're going to follow. I choose to follow Christ. He's the only one that knows what's going on. But if you're not a Christian, choose carefully who you're going to follow, because there are people that have a narrative, as the Bible says. The root of all evil is the love of money, and there's people that they'll they'll sell out anybody for $1.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And that it's just that power and wealth. Like it's wealth. And it's interesting because I shared this today with my boys. We had a chat on the way to church, and I said to them, I talked about wealth and status. And I said, we don't have great wealth or great status. And I said, we're talking about fighting. I said, but Jesus says, how hardly will a rich man enter the kingdom of heaven? The love of money is the root of all evil. There's actually parables about these issues as well. The real value, the real wealth is not found in the physical things at all. But a lot of people will do anything for those physical things, and we see that. And a lot of these people are the big name influencers who will do whatever the mob tell them to. And I think it's wrong. I think it's important that we do what's right and to the best of our ability, which may not even be right. But if we genuinely follow what we believe, which many people, including I think Tommy Robinson, believe in, they would say they're a Zionist. I can't fault them in all of these things they do, and I cannot consider it justifiable to hate on the guy that I think is a national hero just because he doesn't agree with what other people and the mob believe. I just think it's mad. And I think that's why we've teamed up together, mate, because you also think it's mad that a lot of these things are happening and transpiring as though they're justifiable against certain people groups because of their ethnicity, being Jews, and I just think it's wrong.
hey, Nick, there's on on Facebook in the comments, Robert Galati said, "Can you
Oh
guys
yeah,
address if the Jews are still God's chosen people, and if God's old covenant with the Jews is still valid, even though Jesus forfeited? Also, if God will use Israel and the Israelites for future return." Look, from my personal point of view, when I read the Word of God, uh, God put Abraham to sleep, and He literally made that covenant with Himself. God never turned His back on Israel; they turned their back on Him. And Jesus literally said, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I long to gather you, like a hen gathers its chooks, but you will not see me again." So he hasn't rejected them or turned his back. He just said, because they turned their back on him, you won't see me again until you say, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So I know from my own life experience, thank God he never rejected me. Thank God he didn't turn his back on me. Thank you, God, that you didn't just leave me to the side of the road like I deserved, but instead he stuck with me, through thick and thin, and even when I didn't understand myself, how
it's
good
interesting.
he is.
It's interesting
And
because like the kingdom, like Jesus shares a parable of the kingdom of God being taken from those people, the Jews of the time, when they kill the Messiah, and he says, "And I'll give it to another people." I believe that happened, and I believe it wasn't the Jewish people there, and I believe that there was a 12 tribes of Israel, and I believe there's two houses of Israel, and I believe prophetically there was always two houses of Israel after they separated into two houses. The kingdom of Israel and the kingdom, or the house of Israel and the house of Judah. And the house of Judah is not the house of Israel. They're different people, and distinctly different people, because the Bible shows us that prophetically that they're different people. There's a lot of ways you can go with it. But regardless of which way you go, I don't believe it's right to hate a group just because that group you believe in the algorithms and because the mob is saying something about that group are the group to hate, and then it's acceptable to hate them because they're the group to hate. I just think it's wrong. I think it's completely wrong. And anyone that goes along with it, the hate because of it, because there's videos saying it and there's publicly people saying it and there's massive push to say it, and because there's Qatari money going to universities to push that idea, including $1 trillion, saying it does not make it right to hate a particular group. That's
I
my opinion.
I I was reading the other day in Romans 11:11. I'll share the screen, which I reckon is really, really good. One sec. So this is Paul speaking. He goes, so I asked, did they stumble? Talking about, being grafted into the vine. He goes, so I asked, did they stumble in order that they might fall? By no means. Rather, through their trespass, salvation has come to the Gentiles, so as to make Israel jealous. Now, if their trespass means riches for the world, and if their failure means riches for the Gentiles, how much more will their full inclusion mean? Now I'm speaking to you, Gentiles, in so much then as I am apostle to the Gentiles, I'll magnify my ministry in order somehow to make my fellow Jews jealous and thus save some of them. For if their rejection means the reconciliation of the world, what will their acceptance mean but life from the dead? If the dough offered as first fruits is holy, so is the whole lump. And if the root is holy, so are the branches. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you, although are a wild olive shoot, were gathered in among the others, and now share in the nourishing root of the olive tree. Do not be arrogant towards the branches. If you are, remember, it is not you who support the root, but the root that supports you. Then you will say, branches are broken off so that I might be grafted in. That is true. They were broken off because of their unbelief, but you stand fast through faith. So do not become proud, but fear. For if God did not spare the natural branches, neither will He spare you. Note then the kindness and severity of God, severity towards those who have fallen, but God's kindness to you, provide you continue in His kindness. Otherwise, you too will be cut off. And even they, if they do not continue in their belief, will be grafted in. For God has the power to graft them in again. Amen. For if you were cut from what is by nature a wild olive tree and grafted contrary by nature into a cultivated olive tree, how much more would these, the natural branches, be grafted back into their own olive tree? Amen. So the Lord loves us. He never denies us. But yes, what you're saying is correct, Nick. We are now. It's the Bible's clear. It says we are now in the time of the Gentiles. And when the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled, then there will be a next step. I want to, if you want, Nicole, we'll speak about kind of still manning the position of the whole Jew hate sort of thing, and why there are. I think there's so many people that really dislike Jews, and I want to still man this position because Nick and I both aren't ignorant to the fact of the different types of narratives that are proclaimed. But I want to show you something. I saw this. I'll show you this article here. How Israel helped to spawn Hamas. Yes, probably back in the 70s, late 60s, or the 70s, Israel was kind of funding Hamas. They were kind of trying to play both sides. You had the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. I won't look. We understand. I understand that this is happening, and this article's going around. No problems. I understand. Not many. I got a Jewish neighbour, and when I speak to her, she can't stand Netanyahu. She can't stand the guy. She believes the guy deserves to be hung. And I speak to a lot of Jews that believe the same thing. Then you've got Egypt intelligence official says Israel ignored repeated warnings of something big. Yes. Charlie Kirk mentioned a 6-hour pause. Why was there a 6-hour pause? I've done a bit of searching on Grok, and Grok even says that there was anywhere between a 6 to 20 hour delay in some places that were pretty remote to be able to get to.
You're talking about
I
October 7th, yeah?
On
Response.
October 7th, yeah, we're talking about October 7th. So you've got Egypt here saying that they warned Israel that something big was happening. This was on the 9th of October 2023, if you can see that. I agree. There's a lot of stuff there that we don't understand. Now, something that I want to make very, very, very clear here is that just like the Muslims, right? Here we go. We got in Sahih Muslim Book 54, Hadith 105. The last hour will not come unless the Muslims will fight against the Jews, and the Muslims will kill them until the Jews will hide themselves behind a stone or a tree, and a stone or a tree would say, Muslim or the servant of Allah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him. So the Muslims, they have it in the text, they have it everywhere, and they're not shy to say it. They preach.
Okay. But what they would say is that's a hadith. Not all Muslims believe that. And I go, yes. But that particular hadith is the hadith that most Muslims believe. But also that particular bit of the hadith is also Article 7 in the Hamas Charter that they had,
Yes.
which is the part of the Muslim Brotherhood's what they believe. That is what they believe to the
Well,
T.
once again, Nick, it doesn't matter what they say; it's what they preach, and
That's what they do. Trees no
it's what
bones
they
fruit.
do.
They
It's
preach
what
you
they
should know.
do. So we can see it.
Yeah.
There's another article here. This was 2016. Al Aqsa Mosque addresses preacher Ali Abu Ahmed prays for the annihilation of the Jews. Another one from 2019. The Sharia law can protect us. May Allah kill all the infidels, cleanse our Aqsa from the Jews, from the Jewish filth. We have a Montreal Imam talking about the Jews are the most evil of mankind. Human demons quotes killing Jews, passage from the Hadith. Now, there is, I haven't had time to find it, but there are Muslim preachers that will literally say, look, we want and we encourage, or we're egging on the Jews to take down the mosque. I'll try and find that for a later video.
I've
I
seen many of
struggle
them.
finding.
I've
Sorry?
seen heaps of. I've seen heaps of videos like that where people literally are saying that like different people are saying we're waiting for them to do that to
Yeah,
destroy
we're
the
waiting for it. Yeah,
so that
to bring.
we can raise the
Yeah,
jihad
yeah,
war
yeah.
against them.
That's
This
right.
is
That's right. Yeah. And then,
mad. It's completely mad.
we got now. So on the opposing side, we got Bibi Netanyahu. I don't
Who
know if
isn't
anybody's
the
seen.
favorite guy of most Jews anyway? Okay, so anyone that goes, "Oh yeah, the Jews, this," I go, just because Jews are doing a particular thing that a particularly elite Jews are doing a particular thing doesn't mean that that's what every Jew thinks. And you know what? That Yahoo, as an example, is not what everyone thinks. And also, I would say Anthony Albanese is not what every Aussie thinks. I'd also
Yeah.
say not every Nazi represents every Aussie. Okay, so you know what I mean. So the examples are not what I don't think they have the legitimacy when a lot of people say what they say about the Jews to represent the Jews generally anyway as well. But yeah, anyway, go on, mate.
So we have this video. I'll
Mhm.
just put it on.
מה שלא יעוז, וגם שעדיין משיח ליבו, אז הייתה מה שהוא ממה ידיעתו. הכאילו שהיא מספיק, כאילו שהיום כבר כמה שוד בגיל עדיין ליבו, אבל יש עוד כמה שעות, אבל יש משתדלים גם היום, בבשורות טובות.
So you can see here there are rabbis that have been in Netanyahu's ear for a very long time that are encouraging him to bring, to bring the Messiah. Now, for me, it's pretty simple. The Messiah is going to be we shouldn't get. I won't get into that, but it's pretty simple. You've got Netanyahu, you've got the Jews on one side, you've got the Muslims on the other side. It's a holy war. It's a religious war. There's just this is what is being caused. You've got Jews that have rejected Christ that are waiting for their Messiah. You've got the Muslims that are waiting for their Messiah, right? It's the perfect it's the perfect situation for all hell to break loose, and that's what's happening.
Ben, who's the Messiah?
Yes, of course. The one and only Jesus Christ. That's
Okay.
it.
All right. Good. Let's just clarify that. Jesus is the Messiah, the real Messiah. And I don't, when other people say, yes, but, no, it doesn't matter. I don't get what you say, because as far as anything other than that as being legitimate, because Jesus, is the true Messiah. But it doesn't mean I'm going to chop your head off because I don't agree with you. It doesn't mean that I'm going to do anything like that because I don't agree with you, because you know what? Jesus says not to do that, and I don't actually want to do anything that would hurt you. Just like you would agree, Ben, we love people. We love our enemies. We love the people because God wants us to love people, but not just that, because it's in us as Christians to
Yes.
do that. We have a conscience, and you know what? You don't have to be a Christian. You have to be part of that denomination to agree. But goodness is goodness, not because you say it is, but because it comes from your conscience and it's within you. To do things that are good, that come from a place of love, that come from a place of goodness, and that's, I think that's something that is across the board, something that can transcend religious ideological issues. When people, as far as goodness, just loving and caring for people, I think that is something that we all would agree is right. And just because ideologically you won't agree with something doesn't mean that, okay, you're evil because you don't agree with everything someone says ideologically. Okay, and I don't agree with. I don't like. This guy, who happens to be the leader of of a place that he says Israel, that calls himself, BB. But in saying that, just because I don't agree with him doesn't mean I hate everything about him. I think he's a very good speaker, but I don't like him. My cousins don't like him, and they're Jews. They're Jewy Jews. They're Cohen Jews, and they don't like them. They don't like BB, and
Yeah.
Oh, Nick, you're a Zionist now. Oh, shut up. Right? Okay. Anyway, I've done. I see what I'm going to say. Now I'll say it. I'm going to say it, and that's it.
I've got another comment from Dave Onegs. He said, Nick, are you aware who collapsed the Twin Towers and the WTC and World Trade Center 7?
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's good.
You, Nick?
No, let's get into it. I don't care. Get into it as far as you want to, Ben.
No.
But I don't know.
Look. Here's the thing with the World Trade Center, with the Twin Towers and the World Trade Center 7.
Yep.
We're obvious. any person with an IQ over 50 understands that we don't believe the narrative, right?
Yeah.
But
Okay.
for me to build an entire narrative around, what could have been
The
some
Jews, the
sort
Jews.
of it could have been some sort of a setup or some sort of a ploy by an Arab nation. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know. I can't say. I can't build the whole narrative around that particular thing. I've looked at it enough. I've looked at what happened at the World Trade Center, at the Twin Towers and the World Trade Center, and all I know is that I don't believe the official story 100%. And everybody thought I was crazy, about a month afterwards. The thing that went off in my mind when the Twin Towers fell, I go, how come they didn't stop the second plane? I mean, they had like ages. I literally questioned that within the first half hour. I go, hour or two. I'm like, how come they didn't stop the second plane? But anyway, I digress. I'm not going to, build an entire conspiracy theory around, some Jews celebrating on a rooftop or whatever it is. But I'm happy to look into it if anybody wants to send more stuff. If we got time, I'll look at it. No problem.
All right. Can you just read that again?
Uh,
What did
Dave,
bless you?
Dave
Bless you.
O'Negs said, "Are you aware who collapsed the Twin Towers in the WTC?" And I got another one from Alicia J.
All
Most
right.
of the problems.
No, all right. Please. Okay, Dave. Dave. All right. Am I aware of who crashed the Twin Towers? No. But you know what? I'm not going to say that you know it, who did more than I know they did. But yes, it wasn't those Islamic people that did it. I agree. And it wasn't the Jews that everyone says did it, who thinks they did it. But look, it could be some particular Jewish people, or it could be some Ashkenazi people. Look, I'm going to agree with you. Or it could be some synagogue of Satan people who say they're Jews and not the synagogue of Satan. But look, it's not those particular people who they said they were going to say it. But please, Dave, don't say it's the Jews that say they're Jews but not the synagogue. Look, please don't do that without some evidence. But yeah, look, I agree with you. It's not the people that are Islamic people that did it. We all know it was people that are elite people that did it. Thank you. Amen. Good. Mate. Okay, I'm eating some chocolate, just so you know. I'm a type 1 diabetic. My sugar level's a little bit low, so that's why my voice is raised a little bit.
I've got Alicia J. Most of the problems are coming from the Zionists. If you can't see that, then maybe you're not awake, Nick. That's what Alicia J says.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. No, look, she's got every right to say that.
yep.
Look, most of the problems are coming from the people, when I say honest, the people that believe in Israel. Okay. Is that what you're saying? Most of the problems
Yeah.
are coming from the people. Okay, look, Alicia J, are you saying that most of the problems are coming from people who are Zionists according to the Jewish, sorry, to the definitions that we just shared? Is that what you're saying when you say Zionists? Okay. Most of the problems are coming from people that are Zionists according to the definitions that we just shared. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think, yeah, obviously,
No, I'm just waiting. I'm asking her a question, and I'm happy for her to answer it.
Well,
But anyway,
Donald
yeah, go on.
UN is saying what is a Zionist. Well, we said we explained that at the start of the video, Donald. If you want to watch it from the start, a Zionist is literally just a Jew who wants to have a place to call his own home, his own homeland. Just like the Chinese have
It's not
China.
true. It's a definition that a Jew will agree with. sorry. It's a Jew-ish idea that not all Jews have, that not all Jews have to believe, but a a Zionist is someone that doesn't have to be a Jew, but it's actually a lot of Jews that do believe it. It's a lot of Jews that believe it. Okay, so it doesn't have to be Jewish though. There's probably more non-Jew Zionists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, we're just waiting for an
Are you going to be all right? You want to end the stream or
what's that?
you going to be all right?
Yeah. My darling wife is looking at me. No, they're not, darling.
It's live.
She said I have to stop, my darling wife. She said, look,
Yeah.
you have to stop. Look, just so you know. That would look anyway.
I reckon we should stop, Nick. We'll leave it at this,
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up for the night,
Look, anyway, love you all.
Yep.
Hey.
All right. Good night, guys. Yeah.
In the rivers of Babylon. Anyway, look, end it because my singing isn't as what it was.
Yeah.
Thanks,
All
Dave.
right.
Thanks. I love ya. And Dave, please, don't say that I hate you because I said something that you don't agree with. Okay. See you, Ben.
All right. See you guys later. Have a good night.
Bye.